Good evening. The Middle East is no stranger to tension, but recent events have pushed the region to a dangerous brink. On June 12, 2025, Iran launched a direct missile attack on Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, a critical U.S. military hub. This came just days after U.S. and allied strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, which Iran called an act of war. Iran's response was swift, targeting a symbol of American power in the Gulf. This marks a major escalation in the U.S.-Iran standoff, which for years played out through proxies and sanctions. Now, the conflict is out in the open. Al Udeid isn't just a base, it's the nerve center of U.S. operations in the region. The attack sends a clear message. American interests are vulnerable and Qatar is caught in the crossfire. The world is now watching for the U.S. response and how Qatar will navigate this crisis. The U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear program were meant to prevent a future threat, but may have triggered a present danger. Iran's retaliation shows it's willing to risk wider conflict to defend its interests. In this video, we'll break down what happened, why Al Udeid matters, and what this means for the region. We'll examine the attack, the international reaction, and the potential consequences for global security. The events of June 12 have set a new course for the Middle East. Understanding this new reality is essential as the ripples will be felt far beyond Qatar. This is a story of military power, strategic calculation, and the fragile balance of diplomacy. Let's dive in. Al Udeid Air Base, just outside Doha, is one of the most important U.S. military installations overseas. Its massive runway can handle the largest American aircraft, C-17S Stratotankers, and B-52S. Officially a Qatari base, it's operated jointly, with the U.S. as the primary tenant for decades. Al Udeid is home to the forward headquarters of U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, overseeing operations from Egypt to Afghanistan. The base also houses the Combined Air Operations Center, the high-tech command hub for Allied air missions across the region. For Qatar, hosting Al Udeid is a security guarantee. Thousands of U.S. troops on its soil deter threats and boost its influence. The base allows Qatar to maintain an independent foreign policy, even when it clashes with larger neighbors. Al Udeid is a symbol of the deep partnership between Washington and Doha. It's like a small American city in the desert, supporting long-term deployments and complex operations. Its location gives the U.S. rapid access to hotspots across the Middle East. From Al Udeid, aircraft can reach targets in hours, making it indispensable for projecting American power. The base's importance is exactly why it became a target. Its strategic value is unmatched in the region. The attack on Al Udeid was not just about damaging infrastructure, it was about shaking the foundation of U.S. presence in the Gulf. The world now sees just how vulnerable even the most fortified bases can be. This vulnerability has changed the calculus for every nation in the region. Al Udeid's future, and the future of U.S. strategy in the Middle East, hangs in the balance. The stakes have never been higher. The attack began just after 2 a.m. on June 12, 2025. Iran launched a barrage of ballistic and cruise missiles at Al Udeid from its own territory. U.S. intelligence had warned of possible retaliation, but the scale and precision were shocking. Air defense systems, Patriot and THAAD, sprang into action, intercepting many missiles, but some got through. Explosions rocked the base as missiles struck the runway, hangars, and fuel storage. The goal: disrupt air operations and cripple the base's ability to function. Sirens blared, fires broke out, and first responders rushed to the scene. The Pentagon confirmed casualties among both American and Qatari personnel. The main runway was cratered, grounding large aircraft. Several planes were destroyed or damaged. Iran's state media quickly claimed responsibility, calling the attack a just response to U.S. aggression. Base personnel sheltered in bunkers as the Combined Air Operations Center continued to function, redirecting air traffic to other bases. The Qatari military secured the perimeter and worked with U.S. forces to manage the crisis. The attack lasted less than an hour, but its impact was immediate and profound. This was a direct state-on-state strike on a major U.S. base, a line not crossed before. The world watched as the rules of engagement in the Middle East were rewritten overnight. The aftermath left the region and the world on edge. The consequences of this night are still unfolding. Iran's strike on Al Udeid was a calculated move, not a random act. It was direct retaliation for U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear sites days earlier. Tehran needed to restore deterrence and show that attacks on its sovereignty would have severe consequences. Al-Udeid was chosen for its symbolic and strategic value, the most visible sign of American power in the Gulf. By hitting it, Iran aimed to shatter the perception of U.S. invincibility and send a message to regional allies. The attack showcased Iran's advanced missile capabilities, proving even heavily defended bases are vulnerable. This was also about domestic politics. Iran's leadership needed to project strength after the strikes on its nuclear program. The images of missiles targeting an American base rallied nationalist support at home. Targeting a base in Qatar was strategic. Qatar balances ties with both the US and Iran. The attack puts pressure on Qatar and other Gulf states to reconsider their security alliances. Iran's goal: make the US presence in the region costly and dangerous for host nations. The strike was a warning to every country hosting US forces. It was also a signal to the world: Iran is willing to escalate to defend its interests. The attack on Al-Udeid is part of a broader strategy to reshape the regional balance of power. Tehran wants to weaken US influence and force a new security order in the Gulf. This was a powerful and risky step toward that objective. The region may never be the same. Al-Udeid is the brain and logistical heart of U.S. military operations in the Middle East. It hosts CENTCOM's forward headquarters and the Combined Air Operations Center, tracking every Allied aircraft. Giant cargo planes deliver troops and supplies, while refueling tankers extend the reach of U.S. jets. But the recent attack exposed vulnerabilities, forcing the U.S. to rethink its strategy in a more contested region. In the aftermath, the US and Qatar scrambled to secure the base and assess the damage. Engineers began repairing the runway. Flights were diverted to other regional bases. The Pentagon confirmed casualties but avoided inflammatory rhetoric, focusing on restoring operations. The White House condemned the attack and convened emergency meetings to weigh response options. Allies urged restraint, fearing a wider conflict could destabilize the global economy. Qatar condemned the violation of its sovereignty and called for de-escalation while working behind the scenes to mediate. The attack exposed the risks of Qatar's foreign policy. Security from the US comes with the danger of becoming a target. Iran declared victory, warning that further aggression would be met with stronger responses. The region was suddenly on high alert, with military readiness increased across the Gulf. The world waited anxiously for the US response. The fallout was immediate tension, uncertainty, and a region on edge. The attack sent shockwaves through the Middle East. Gulf Arab states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE condemned the strike but privately worried about their own vulnerability. Air defenses were put on high alert, and military patrols intensified. The incident accelerated quiet diplomatic outreach to Iran, as Gulf states sought to avoid being caught in the crossfire. Iraq and Syria, influenced by Iran, stayed silent but feared wider war. Israel, involved in the initial strikes on Iran, called for a strong US response, warning that anything less would embolden Tehran. The region became more polarized, with nations quietly choosing sides. The attack forced every country to reconsider its security strategy. The Middle East was now bracing for what might come next. The region stands at a crossroads. The US faces a dilemma: respond forcefully and risk war, or show restraint and risk emboldening Iran. Options range from covert operations to targeted strikes or cyber attacks. Diplomacy is in overdrive, with the UN, EU, and regional powers seeking to mediate and prevent escalation. Deep mistrust makes a diplomatic solution difficult, but both sides need an off-ramp. The Pentagon will likely invest more in missile defense and may disperse forces to smaller, less vulnerable bases. Gulf states will continue balancing US security guarantees with efforts to reduce tensions with Iran. The attack was a wake-up call. The era of uncontested US dominance is over. The region must adapt to a new, more dangerous reality. The next steps will define the future of the Middle East. The attack on Al-Udeid marks a turning point in the US-Iran conflict. Years of shadow war have erupted into open confrontation. Iran has shown it's willing to strike directly at US forces, changing the region's strategic dynamics. The US and its allies must adapt to a world where forward bases are no longer safe havens. New strategies, technologies, and diplomacy are needed. The American response will set the tone for the region. Will it escalate or de-escalate? Gulf states must decide whether to draw closer to the US or hedge their bets. Iran's next moves will reveal whether this was a one-off or the start of a new posture. The world is watching, hoping for wisdom over wrath. The future of the Middle East hangs in the balance.